Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to show you how you can automatically turn Docker containers on and off depending on whether or not they're actively being used. But first, a quick sponsor spot. This video is sponsored by FlexiSpot, and this is their Pro Plus Standing Desk E7. Now, I spent a lot of time sitting at my desk, whether it's researching a new video idea or doom scrolling the internet. And of course, we all know that sitting for long periods of time isn't great for your physical health. So that's why I'm stoked that the Pro Plus Standing Desk from FlexiSpot makes it easier for me to change up how I spend time at my desk. I can sit or stand when I need to, and because the E7 can hold up to 355 pounds, I can sit on it or lay on it and raise it up as high as I want, if I wanted to. I chose the black frame with the 55 by 28 inch bamboo top, which is surprisingly resilient to the abuse that I put it through over the last month or so. There are still no scuffs or scratches or even any coffee or water stains, and it feels really nice to rest my arms on. The premium keypad has height adjustment, a child lock, 4 programmable heights, and a USB charging port. Be sure to check out the link in the description to get $30 off your minimum purchase of $300. So as a lot of the videos on my channel tend to start, this one started for me on Reddit, where I ran into a post where somebody had posted something about a container called Lazytainer, and I thought that was kind of interesting, and I liked the idea of lazy loading Docker containers, and I looked into it, and at first it confused me, and then I figured it out, and I want to share it with you guys. So basically, if we come over here, he's got a a GitHub repository that you can come take a look at. We can see that some of this was updated just a couple of days ago, so it's actively being used. He's got lots of documentation in here that you can take a look at, and here's an example of the Docker Compose that he uses there, and then some more information about environment variables if you want to check that out. I'm going to kind of go through all of this in the different examples I've got 3 different examples on how we're going to do this in this video here. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to come over to our Portainer. We're going to look here. We've got just Portainer up and running. We've got some other containers in here, and you'll notice that I did some weird kind of naming stuff like YouTube and Lazytainer. That's one group. Tyson 2 and Lazytainer 2, that's another group. And then Tyson 3, YouTube 3 and Lazytainer 3, that's a third group. So we've got 3 different groups of containers that we can kind of mess with here. So the first thing I want to do is actually start Lazytainer, this one right here, like so. We're going to click Start. Now, when I start this container, it should, in fact, automatically start the YouTube container as well. There it is. There is YouTube. But if we come over and look at the logs for Lazytainer, we can see that there are 0 active clients. And here in a moment, where it says 23 packets, there it went down. It says 2 packets received in the last 15 seconds. So now it's going to count to 15, basically 15 seconds. If it doesn't get any interaction in the next 15 seconds, it's going to shut down at that YouTube container. So we're going to give this a second. There it goes, stopping container. And here in a second, we'll say stopped container /YouTube. And there we go, stopped container YouTube, right? So that's good. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this link right here. We're going to come over to Firefox. I'm just going to paste that in like so. And basically nothing is going to happen. But what I'm going to do, oh, there it went. So what actually happened there, here it says YouTube is stopped, but if we open up the port or the logs for Lazytainer here, we can see that it got some traffic. It's currently receiving traffic, and it's just kind of, in fact, it's, there we go. Let's refresh this page. So here we can see it started to count back up. It got to 3. And then I sent some more traffic to it. And as I refresh, it's going to continue to receive traffic. So once I stop, let's actually just pop open a new tab and close that. And if we wait just a second here, the packets will start going down like we're seeing here. Once it gets down below the threshold of 10 packets, then it will start counting up from 1 to 15. And once it gets to 15 seconds, it will shut down that YouTube container again. Here we're up to 8 seconds. Let's go ahead and refresh this page so we can see YouTube is in fact up and running. There it is, 15 seconds, stopping containers. Here in just a moment, it'll say, stopped YouTube container. We'll give this just a second here. And there's stopped container /YouTube. And again, if I refresh this page, now YouTube is no longer running. So since we've kind of shown that, let's do it one more time, just for the giggles of it. Let's go ahead and click that. We'll come back over to here. Let's do this on 2 separate windows. There it goes. So it said starting containers, started container YouTube, and there it is. It actually happened pretty quickly that time. Sometimes you'll load a page, or you'll go to a page and it won't load, and you refresh the page and then it'll pop up. So basically what that means is you'll have to kind of try a couple of different things to see which works. But in this case, it loaded fast enough that I didn't even see that it was down. Right, so now I'm not doing anything here. It's not receiving any traffic. So here in just a moment, it'll go ahead and stop that container again. We'll let it go ahead and stop. We'll refresh this page and bring it right back up just for the sake of demonstration here. So stopped the container. If I come back over and refresh, YouTube is not running here, but if I refresh, we'll give this just a second to do its thing. And there it did load, started container YouTube, and we'll go ahead and refresh. And now YouTube is up and running. So while we've still got YouTube up and running, let's actually start Tyson 2 by first starting Lazytainer 2. So we're gonna go ahead and start this. Once it is started, here in just a moment, Tyson 2 should come up. Let's open up the logs for Lazytainer 2 there. And it says that it has started container Tyson 2. So refresh, Tyson 2 running right there. So let's grab port 3000, open a new tab there. And there is Tyson. So these are now running independently of each other. So if I come back over and refresh, we can see that YouTube is down, but Tyson is still up. Again, if I refresh YouTube, we'll give this just a second and refresh, and now YouTube is also up and running. So that's how we can have two containers running independently of each other, each with their own trigger container. Again, I've named these poorly, but it was just for grouping in my brain so I could kind of demonstrate this. So let's actually look at the Docker Compose for each of those container setups. So we're going to open up stacks over here. Let's go full screen again like so. We're going to take a look at Lazy, and we're going to go ahead and open Lazy here. So we've got a version 3 Docker Compose or stack, depending on what nomenclature you want to use. We've got services, of course, in this. We've got 2 services listed. The first one is the Lazytainer service. We've given the container name of Lazytainer. We've got an image down here for vmorganp and his Lazytainer master tag there. We've got some environment variables of port 8081, a label of Lazytainer, timeout of 15 seconds. Basically, how long do you want the container to sit idle before it starts the shutdown process? How many packets do you want to be the threshold before it starts counting to 15 seconds? The pull rate is how often do you want to check? I've got it set to 1 second. These numbers are all very, very low. For the sake of demonstration, you may want to crank those numbers up depending on your use case. And then verbose equals true. That's just for some troubleshooting stuff, that sort of thing. I should mention that port 8081 up here, that's telling the container which port to listen to. The label Lazytainer will come into play later. We're going to look at that in just a moment, but that's going to come into play a little bit later in our second container. Again, we've got port 8081 and port 80. This is the host side. This is the container side. And those ports actually came from our YouTube container. So that's something to keep in mind there. Whatever port this needs to run, whatever port your container needs to run on, you're going to take it out of that container and move it to the up here to the Lazytainer container. And then, of course, we've got our volume that it's just saying, hey, mount to the Docker socket so we can kind of keep track of what's going on with Docker. Below that, we've got our actual application. In this case, it's our YouTube container here. We've given it a container name of YouTube. We've got our image listed here. Some environment variables for the username and password to get into that container. None of this really matters for the sake of Lazytainer. This is just demonstrating for this specific container setup. Below that, we've got a volume as far as where do we want to store our downloads. Our network mode, this is where things change. So our network mode, we're going to use a service of Lazytainer. So basically we're saying, hey, run all of the traffic from this YouTube container, run that through our Lazytainer container. That's for a couple of reasons. Mostly it's just so that it can monitor that traffic and decide whether or not the container should be on or off based on how many packets it's received. In order for Lazytainer to monitor that, we have to run all of our traffic through it. So that's something to keep in mind there. Again, this depends on Lazytainer to be up and running. Of course, if Lazytainer isn't running, we can't access it because our ports have been moved. It depends on it. Lots of stuff going on there, our network mode. So basically, that's what's going on with the depends on. And then our label, Lazytainer.marker is going to be consistent through all of our different container configurations. However, the Lazytainer.marker equals this Lazytainer right here is actually what we set in this label up in the Lazytainer label section. So that's what's going on there. And that's what lets basically these three settings are what let our application connect to Lazytainer. So that's just one example here. Let's actually go back and take a look at Lazytainer 2 in this case, and we can actually kind of compare and contrast these as well, just so we can kind of see what's going on between the two. Again, at the top, all of this is the same. Our port changed. So over on the left, we've got YouTube. Over on the right, we've got Tyson. So our port changed here. Our label also changed. This was version 1 on the YouTube side and version 2 over here on the Tyson side. That's why those labels are different. Of course, everything else in here was the same. Again, I encourage you to play with those numbers for the timeout, the threshold, things like that, to figure out what works best for you. Again, our ports changed because the Tyson container requires port 3000 and the YouTube requires 8081 in this particular case. If you need to change those for any reason, you'll want to you want to make that modification down here in the actual application container, depending on how that happens to work out. Now, the reason I bring that up is it confused me for a bit. If we take a look over here at the example on the GitHub page, this command is how the whoami changes the port. So each different application will be a little bit different. I believe on the YouTube app, again, just for demonstration purposes, I believe that for this, if I needed to, I could do like app, I guess it would be an environment. It would be, like app URL equals 8081, and then I could actually change both of these to 8081. Like so. So if you need to change an application port, you'll have to make sure that that application has the ability to change that port. So just a couple of different tweaks that you might have to make for your setup, and you have to figure out how that application requires you to change the port in there. It's kind of a mind bender if you're not familiar with how port mappings work, but a lot of different containers have the option to change the port on the container side of things. You'll have to figure that out on a container by container basis, though. So something to keep in mind there. Anyway, so again, below that, all of this is the same. We're still using our Docker socket there. Below that is our actual application for this. Let me actually drop that down a line. So again, our image, Linux server / Tyson, our container name, Tyson2, again, just for the grouping, because this is Lazytainer 2 that it's attached to. So I wanted to keep that naming convention consistent. Our network mode, again, is service of Lazytainer 2, which we've got up here for that service. Depends on Lazytainer 2, again, based on that service name. And then the label where it says Lazytainer.marker equals Lazytainer 2, that's actually from this label right here. And then again, Tyson requires a connection to the Docker socket as well. So we've actually got two different containers both connecting to the Docker socket there. So that's how we can have basically a toggle switch for individual containers. You can have as many different toggle switches as you want for however many containers you've got if you wanted to go that route. That's how to manage individual containers and how you might have to rename some things and reconfigure some things in order to have multiple instances of Lazytainer up and running simultaneously. So you have to change some labels and some names, but it's fairly intuitive once you kind of get in the groove of things. If you'd like to get early access to my content, you can head over to Patreon, become a channel member here on YouTube, or head over to dbtech.fans, and any of those ways will help support the channel and give you early access to ad-free content. So, now that we've taken a look at managing individual containers using Lazytainer, let's actually take a look at managing multiple containers using one Lazytainer container. So the reason you might want to have multiple containers attached to one lazy container is maybe you've got, a group of containers that all work together. And if one of them is not running, the others don't need to be running. So why have the resources taken up? So in this case, I'm still going to use Tyson and YouTube as examples, but, I can think of, like applications that might have a database. Maybe you don't want that running all of the time. So you have those both set to, if I try to access the application, then the application and the database will both kick on, and then once I'm done, they will automatically shut off. That's just one example. I'm sure you guys are creative enough to come up with lots of different examples, but for the sake of this, we're just going to use the same two. We're going to use YouTube or the YouTube DL and Tyson for this, but we've got a different setup for this. So let's start up Lazytainer 3 here, just as an example. We're going to start this. Oops, I'm going to close that. There we go. So now Lazytainer 3 is running, and here in just a second, here we can see that it started Tyson 3 and YouTube 3 there. And if we refresh this page, we can see YouTube 3 and Tyson 3 are both running. And of course, I've got their port mappings down here in that Tyson 3 container there. So let's go ahead and actually open up Firefox again. And then let's do this so that they're side by side. Let's grab port 8080. Actually, I lied. Let's let this actually shut down first so that so we don't have any containers running. So in fact, we can see that it stopped container Tyson 3. Here in a moment, it will say stopped container YouTube 3. There it goes. So now we've stopped both of those containers. And if we come back over and refresh, only Lazytainer 3 is running. So what's cool about this is because I've got two different containers attached to the Lazytainer container, if I access one, both of them will automatically come up. So let's just drag port 3000 over here. And this isn't going to load, but if I refresh, there we go. So now Tyson 3 is up and running. And if I refresh again, now YouTube 3 is also up and running. So if I drag, oops, I don't want to do that. If I drag this over like so into a new tab, here is our YouTube and our Tyson containers. If I open this up and just drop all the traffic to that and come back over, we can see that we've got 175 packets received. Now we've got 31 packets received. Once that drops below that 10 packet threshold, then it's going to start counting from 1 to 15. Once it gets to 15, it'll shut down both of those containers. And here we can see both of those, we're counting up to 8 now. Again, once it gets to 15, it'll start shutting down both the Tyson 3 and the YouTube 3 containers. So now it's counted to 15, stopping containers, stopped container Tyson 3. We'll give this a second to finish up shutting down YouTube 3. And then we will come back over and refresh our container list. There it goes. Oops, refresh. And now only Lazytainer 3 is running. Again, if I just take this and drag it over there like so, it's going to fail. But if I refresh, now it's up and running. If I refresh over here, now those are both up and running again. Of course, I could have also started both of those containers by going to port 8080 for the YouTube 3 container, but I think you kind of get the idea of what's going on here. Now, with that said, let's jump over and take a look at what the Docker Compose or the stack looks like for managing multiple containers with one Lazytainer instance. Hey guys, this part of the video is strictly for my Canadian viewers. So if you're not Canadian, skip this video and I'll wait until you're done. Okay, hopefully everybody who's not Canadian is now somewhere else in the video. If you are Canadian and you're looking to get into self-hosting, but you don't want to break the bank with new hardware, you should definitely check out the folks over at Refurb Feed. They have a huge selection of always changing inventory of products that have been used and refurbished and are ready to go for your next home lab project. And if you use code DBTech when you check out, you can get 10% off your next laptop purchase. Be sure to check the description of any of the products you consider purchasing, as some of them may not have a hard drive or they may not have a power supply, but all of that will be listed in the product description of each of the products as applicable. So be sure to head over to refurbfeed.com for your next home lab purchase. So what we're going to do is come over here to our stacks. We're going to go to Lazytainer 3 or Lazy 3 in this case. Here we can see that it is currently shutting containers down, and that's fine. What we're going to do is come over here to the editor. Now, the first few lines will all look the same. I changed the container name to Lazytainer 3 and the service name to Lazytainer 3. Below that, when we get into our environment variables, we've got ports. Again, we've got 8080 and 3000. We can see that those are comma separated. And then below that, we've got Lazytainer 3 as the label. Our timeout, our packet threshold, our pull rate, and our verbose, those haven't changed. That's been the same all the way across. Again, I do encourage you to go through and modify those numbers to something that's a bit more realistic for your setup needs. But that's what I've got again in here for demonstrative purposes. Below that, we've got some ports. Again, these are the same ports that we pulled from the containers down below. We've got port 8080 for YouTube and 3000 for Tyson. We've got our volume again for the Docker socket up here on Lazytainer 3. Below that, again, we've got the same YouTube part of this Docker compose that we saw in the first part of this video, but we can see that we've changed this to YouTube 3. We changed our network mode service to Lazytainer 3, our depends on to Lazytainer 3, and our label to Lazytainer 3. And again, all of that is available, up here. That's how we're connecting the YouTube application container to the Lazytainer container application in here. So if we go down a little further, again, we've got Tyson. Our container name is Tyson 3. I've got a restart policy in here that you could use if you wanted to. Again, our network mode is service Lazytainer 3, again, from up here. And then we've got our depends on Lazytainer 3 again, from Lazytainer 3 at the top. Our label of Lazytainer 3 comes from this label right here in the environment variables for our Lazytainer container. And then we've got our volume, again, the Docker socket that Tyson requires to do what it needs to do with the Docker socket. So there's how you can manage one container or a couple of individual containers, or have a couple of containers working in tandem with Lazytainer to do all kinds of different configurations for whatever your setup needs happen to be, for whatever it is you want to do with your setup. So hopefully this all made sense. Hopefully you found this video helpful and intuitive, maybe not intuitive, but explanatory. If this video was helpful in any way, do me a favor, give the video a thumbs up. Really does help out quite a bit in getting more views on this. Also, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this down below. I know in the past I've been fairly hostile and volatile in my comment section, and I have spent the better part of 6 months, maybe even more than that at this point, really working on me to not be that guy. I don't like being that guy. I've been to therapy, and I would really love to see you guys in the comments, and I will play nice, I promise. So yeah, again, everything that you'll need for this setup, I'll have all three of these Docker Compose options down available in the description down below, including different ways you can support the channel if you want to do that. Also, while you're down there, check out the channel sponsors for this video. And I think with all that said, I'm going to wrap this up. I want to thank you guys for spending a few minutes of your day with me today, and I will talk to you in the next video.